we recording? Okay. And a 1, and a 2, and a... We are the Mrs. and a Mike. 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 We are the Mrs. and a Mike.
Oh, that was a good one.
I know, girl. I got into that one.
Hi, guys. Welcome to the Mrs. and a Mike podcast. This is CJ.
It's Elle.
And Bree. Hi.
Welcome
back, guys. It's 2020.
Woo woo. Happy New Year.
I like how y'all both did the woo-woo. That was cute. Anyways. CJ, you want to go first?
What am I talking about?
Like your plans for your marriage in the new year.
So I think this year we are both focused on just health, but like mental health, physical health, trying to find balance. I think I'm finally in a place where the baby is no longer the baby. I mean, she's still a baby, but she's more independent. She's potty trained now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I gotta get on it. Because Bo is not.
So I'm finally in a space where I want to spend more time focusing on me. I literally woke up this morning and was like, this time last year, I was still breastfeeding and still like attached to the kid. I couldn't leave her unless she had bottles and all that kind of stuff. Now I can just pass both of them off and go. So we're just focusing on health this year. Yeah.
That's good. Elle, that's not where you are. You're still attached to yours.
Yeah. For my marriage, I just actually kind of health too. Mental health, health, just trying to eat healthier, be healthier. And also, since we do have a baby, really make sure that we're making time for just each other as well. And making time for all of us as a family, often. So that's pretty much where I think I am with everything.
Oh, that's so sweet. Well, for me, this year is like a growth year for us. Like we have a lot of like gears turning. So hopefully things will start to like
fall into place.
Yeah. Like, so we're hoping this year is like a year of like growth. For us, for the kids, for just everything.
Yeah. Same for us. Good. Actually, that's we have some things working and some goals going that we really would like to see come to fruition this year. Mm-hmm. But I think the health piece goes hand in hand because if we're not in a good place mentally, physically, and in our relationship, then the goals that we're shooting for, we just won't ever get there.
Right. Exactly. And also, they kind of are no longer important if you lose your health.
Right.
Like that really is the most important thing.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
It's good. Well, Elle, you want to intro our first topic of 2020?
Yes. So our topic today is, should you save yourself for marriage? And also, should you live together before marriage?
Interesting. So this is interesting because if you look up or if you research saving yourself for marriage, the only consensus really is that it means not having sexual intercourse before marriage. So meaning you're technically a virgin before you get married.
Technically
virgin. But
we got to talk about that technical virginity a little bit.
Right. But it gets a little wishy-washy when you talk about things like oral sex.
Right.
And yeah, so I think the consensus seems to be that you are a virgin when you get married, but there's a gray area there when you're talking about saving yourself and what that means. And I think it varies based on the person and their personal beliefs about what saving yourself means.
So I guess for me, the weird thing is like a lot of times people that I've spoken to, they're all like, my body is sacred and it's a special gift and I want to give to my husband. But you've already had oral sex. You may have had anal sex. So technically, you've given your body to this person and possibly other people before that person too. What is the big deal at this point? Like, it's semantics to me at that point. Like, okay, I could even make the case that like, well, you've never let him enter your vagina, but you let him into your buttocks. Like, well, I'm just saying, like, what? Where is the sacredness? And does it really all just boil down to, well, my hymen's still intact? Because you might be a virgin completely, never done anything, and not have an intact hymen. Like, the whole construct of like virginity being like this prize to me just doesn't make sense. Because to me, like, the gift should be yours. It shouldn't be someone else's. So like, to me, I would rather celebrate my first orgasm than celebrate just having intercourse. Like, to me, that just, I know there's a lot of people out there that are like, she's tripping, blah, 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 and that's fine. Just in my mind, it never made sense.
I think it depends on the person, because I fully understand the idea that you are waiting for this one special person to share something that you consider to be sacred to you. So I understand waiting, and I understand feeling like you are sharing a gift with someone else who you really love and who you have decided you want to spend the rest of your life with. I just think that gray area has to be defined for you, because it seems to be different for everybody in terms of what that means. And also, physically, you're saving yourself, but then are there other actions that go along with that? Are there, you're saying my body is pure or whatever the case may be, but then are your actions supporting that, or are you doing, so that's why I think it depends on the person, but I understand the underlying principle.
So I guess for me, like, I would feel, I don't know, to me, it would feel more of like, it would make sense if you said like, you're saving yourself for someone special. Not necessarily that you're saving yourself for like the institution of marriage. The only reason why I say this is because sometimes people will rush to the altar just to feel like, oh, I saved myself so I could get to this benchmark and now I can have sex. When all along you just really, really, really wanted to have sex. And it's like, no one puts this pressure on the guy. Like there's no check to see if he's a virgin. We just go on his word. And do we really care? Like, could you honestly have said, like, if you were saving yourself and you fell in love with the guy, but you found out he had sex with somebody before you, that meant that he wasn't the guy for you?
No.
Right.
Yeah.
But there are people who will, like, X out a woman. She's unclean. She's not pure. What does that mean? Like, and then if sex makes me dirty, I'm dirty with you too. So let me just stay a virgin till I die. How about that? And nobody gets it. Nobody gets my cookies then. Anywho, did we all like talk about?
Well, I kind of agree. I mean, I understand if someone wants to do that. That's their decision. But I do agree that it is kind of like a double standard where, the guy that nobody puts that pressure on the guy.
Right.
So.
And the bottom line is he's having sex with somebody unless he's gay. And in that case, it's two guys. So no one cares if they're virgins. But so if he's heterosexual, he's having sex with some woman.
But why does no one care? Because I think we're also making the assumption that only women hold fast to this save myself for marriage idea.
No, I know that there's some men out there that do. I just feel like society puts this unnecessary pressure on a woman to save herself and not on a man. Because
I was just going to say, I don't want us to ignore the fact that there are men.
There definitely are men. And honestly, okay, first of all, let me say this. Power to anybody that's their decision and you're sticking to your guns and you're holding fast to your truth and whatever your belief system is, that falls in line with that. Like, amen, do you live your life? But don't feel like any person, yourself included, is less than if they don't also subscribe to that. Because at the end of the day, whether you say I do having had sex prior, having only had oral sex prior, having had no sex prior, doesn't change the vow. It doesn't change your marriage, the sanctity of your marriage, the weight of your marriage. It doesn't make you any less of a married woman thereafter if you entered it as a virgin or not as a virgin. It kind of makes your wedding night a little interesting. But that's about it to me, if you ask me. Like, that's the only thing it changes. Like, when you wake up the next morning and you've had sex for that first time with your husband, you don't get a medal or like a stamp on your back that's like, I made it. I was a good girl until I walked down the aisle. No one will know if you have on a white dress, but you're really not a virgin. You know, like, I don't know. I guess I have a problem with why we put an importance on it in general in society. Like, what difference does it make? I guess that's my thing. I would just want young people to save themselves until they feel like they're ready, not necessarily until they're married. Like, that's just where I stand on it. And if you're ready at 18, 19, 20, don't feel like you got to rush to get married just so you can say, well, I waited till I was married.
Yeah, that's the worst thing to do.
Right. So do you want to intro like our second portion of this, the cohabitation thing?
Let's do that after we tackle this whole saving yourself from marriage.
Okay, let's do that then.
Let's do that.
All right. So luckily, we have someone who is willing to speak from experience on the topic of saving yourself for marriage. A dear friend of mine, Tiff, decided she would join us today and share her story. I know firsthand she did save herself for marriage. I was at the wedding. So there. Hi, Tiff.
Hi, Tiff.
Hi,
Tiff. Hi, everyone. Hello. Yes, I did save myself for marriage.
Yeah, well, woohoo! I guess I can give you like a hip hip hooray. I don't know.
No.
Like, I don't need that. So let me ask you this first: what influenced your decision to like wait until you were married? Was it religion, family, society? Like, why did you decide you wanted to wait?
I will say my dad. First of all, yes, because that's a real strong personal. He was serious. But his seriousness came from the religion side. Okay. That was definitely taught of you're supposed to save yourself for marriage.
Good Catholic girl.
Yes, that's it. Strong Catholic.
I was Catholic too, but I ain't make it that far.
But then I was like, you know what? I am not about to be somebody's baby mama.
True.
I knew that was my whole point of saving myself because I was like, I'm not going to end up being a teen and pregnant and then have to deal with a baby by myself. It's just not going to happen. So those were my influential things to myself to save myself, to say, when I get married, that's when I know I can start having kids and things will, go from there. So that was my reasonings.
Can I ask you a question though?
Sure.
Did you never want to just use contraception to not be a baby mama?
Yeah, I was going to ask that too. Was that even an option
for you?
That's what I was going to say. I don't really think it was an option because I was not going to my parents and be like, so, that birth control thing? No, indeed not.
So it's like you didn't really have access to that.
Exactly.
So it's kinda
it wasn't really an option for me. So it was...
See, this is why programs like Planned Parenthood are important, people. This is why we have to vote. Because it's not about abortions or anything like that. It's literally about reproductive health and about not having to make a lifestyle choice based on lack of access to medical advice. That was my 2 cents.
Let me ask you this. So even after you turned 18 and you were able to do things like that or get contraception without your parents, by then had it been drilled in you, wait, stay a virgin until you get married and you just never...
Let's have this conversation. I was engaged at 17 and married at 18.
Okay.
So it just all kind of lined up for me. It was an early thing, and my first child was born at 19. So it was just like bam, bam, bam.
Gotcha.
I will say, if I knew then what I know now, would I have saved myself? Probably not. Just because you get different experiences. You learn what you like. You learn different things. And the marriage that I was in did not allow me to explore and learn myself. It was more end up adapting to him and pleasing him and not knowing me. So I wouldn't do it. If I had to do it over again, I wouldn't do it.
And that's kind of tough because I feel like you almost don't know if your spouse is that way until after you're already in that situation. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, especially if like the both of you were like waiting, you know, until you got married. You don't know that he's selfish, basically, in bed. And he feels like your job sexually is just to be there for my pleasure. And now you're you can't just walk away. You're married.
You're married.
You know? Like,
And this was our situation. We both saved ourselves. He understood when we got together, he knew I was not doing anything sexual until we were married. And he didn't. Like, he was very young, very immature. You could tell. You know, you could tell if a man had sex or not. So, he was
like, it was
truly a
written all
virgin
over.
too.
I knew it.
Exactly. Right.
He wasn't lying.
Oh yeah, he ain't grown in this situation. So, yeah, we both saved ourselves. But it just truly was not the right situation, I would say.
So you mentioned that he also saved himself. Was that like important for you? Would that have been a deal breaker if he wasn't a virgin and you were waiting? Hey, Mom.
Oh, to be honest, I don't know at this moment. I mean, you know, it was so long ago. I don't know, because again, now I would have wanted someone who
was experienced.
who was experienced, exactly that. But again, knowing now, I would have changed a lot of things.
Do you know his reasons for waiting?
Probably the same. He grew up in a Catholic household as well, and it was like, you know, save yourself. Now, honestly, I don't think that he would have.
If it weren't for you?
I really think he would have stepped out and did some other things before marriage, but then I came along
and you were like, no.
Exactly.
Like, I'm not. And if you're going to be here, then you not.
Exactly. And I think that might have secretly been one of his reasons to marry me. You know what I mean? Because
like, let's make this official so we can get on with
Exactly.
So not necessarily just women getting into unnecessary marriages to have sex, but men also. Like, I'm going to put the ring on her finger so I can finally get it.
Because, you know, the woman is the prize.
Right.
See, and I just feel like both people are the prize. No, nobody.
You don't listen to Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey tells you the woman is the prize.
Listen, Steve Harvey's on his third wife? So, I mean, I don't know how much of an expert he is. I'm going to just say this. I am still very happily married to my first husband.
Amen.
Maybe I had a little something Steve didn't have going in.
But I'm sure if you talk to your husband, you are his prize. Like, he doesn't want to lose
but
you.
he's mine too, is all I'm saying. And that's another thing. I feel like the virginity thing is like women are like these untouchable, supposedly non-sexual, clean, virginal, white, pure creatures that you're supposed to just like put on a little pedestal. And if you're a good guy, you can get one of those. You can get that trophy. And it's like, I don't want to be viewed like that, like this helpless little
damsel.
Yes. like I'm your partner. Like we're equals in this. You're a sexual being. I'm a sexual being.
But do you feel like that's the case with a lot of guys?
No,
nowadays? Like wanting that because.
So I will say this.
I know personally a lot of guys that would be like, "Whoa, she's a virgin. I'm not so sure."
Right, but also,
well, I am older now, so
right,
being older,
right.
And,
but at the same time, a lot of those guys will sit back and call a celebrity a hoe because she was spotted with this guy on Monday, that guy on Wednesday. It's like, but you think you're progressive, but then you're judging that woman for living all of her life. And we don't even know if she's having sex with these men. You just decided to fall back into these traditional viewpoints when it came to her. But then when it comes to the chick you want to date or marry, all of a sudden you're so liberal, you're so progressive.
Gotcha.
Like, I feel like a lot of them talk out both sides of their neck.
I'm with you on that. Like, going back to what you were saying, I went to a comedy show and the guys was like, how many women in here have children? And the ones who didn't raise their hands, he was like, yo, that's not good pussy out there. You be careful.
Oh,
like, yeah. So some guys guys want you to be experienced. Guys want you these days to actually have kids and be established.
I wonder if that's just because that way they get to like have kids without actually having to have kids because they're somebody else's kids. So they only get them like every other weekend kind of
How
thing.
many guys you know really want kids like that? No. I don't think so.
I got my little buddy, and then I also get to play the game by myself because he's going by his daddy.
So I think, Brie, a lot of your frustration about basically like traditional views of men versus women and women almost, being like the inferior being to the man. I think a lot of that is changing. And I think we're in a time where women are showing their strength and asserting their power. Yeah. And they're not always looked at as just a delicate flower. However, I like the idea of the woman being the prize because I feel like a man who finds a good woman has found an invaluable thing. I think it is still hard to find women that are good, women that are strong, women that are loving, that are caring, that are supportive, that are willing to put in the work to make for a good marriage. So I think saying that a woman is the prize is not wrong.
I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it's only half of the coin. Because everything you just said, I bet I could pull 100 women that would also agree. It is very hard to find those same attributes in a man. So having a man who is supportive and loving and kind and wanting to be committed and married and wanting to be a good father is also a prize. So to me, it's like the Powerball winning ticket is the two of you finding each other. It's not that one is to be obtained and the other one isn't.
So what about the submissive woman?
Girl, that's a whole nother...
I mean, that's how I was raised. The woman is supposed to be submissive to her man, and the man is supposed to be the head of the household.
Listen, we submit to each other. And I will tell you this. We submit to each other because there are things that he recognizes that I am better to lead at than he is, and he will follow. And I recognize that things he's better to lead at, and I will follow. We're partners. We work together.
That's great in your marriage.
And it works for us. And if you are a woman who wants to be submissive and you are a man who wants a submissive wife, I hope you two find each other. Don't come knocking on my door though, because you're gonna be real mad. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and I think we touched on this in a previous episode about those roles and whether or not women should or should not be submissive and how that's changing a lot as well.
It is.
That, women are really finding their voice and truly being equals in relationships.
So Tiff, let me ask you this. So were you ever concerned at the time when you were like engaged but still waiting that what if he's bad in bed? Or what if I'm bad in bed? And this just means for the rest of my life, I'm never going to be satisfied sexually. Were you ever concerned with that?
Concerned? No. But can I just be honest? After 12 years of marriage, I finally learned what an orgasm was.
Oh my God.
Wow.
So not knowing at all whether somebody is good in bed or not, or whether you know what I mean?
Because you didn't have nothing to compare it to.
Nothing to compare it to, no experiences, no true knowledge of it. So hence reasons why I'm like, don't save yourself. You do need, education is good. Education in all ways is really good. Now, I'm not saying, just go grab some condoms and jump into bed with anybody. No, that's not what I'm suggesting.
That's not what any of us are saying.
But actually learning, getting true experiences is definitely something to me needed before you make that lifelong commitment. Because, when he decided to cheat on me, this is why my marriage partially ended. That's when he got me to have an orgasm. Because I think he was having sex with her in his mind.
Wow. So do you think she taught him, basically?
Probably so.
Oh my gosh.
Because he never allowed me to be a freak.
Punch her in the face, but I would be like, I'm not going to knock all your teeth out because thank you, girl. Because listen, before you, I wasn't getting nothing.
But see, holding a woman on a pedestal and stuff like that, he did for me, which he didn't allow me to be a freak for him. And we had this conversation after marriage.
It's the Madonna and the whore complex. Have you heard of that?
No.
So there's this thing called the Madonna and the whore complex. So before men are married, not to say every woman that they come across, but a lot of women that they come across, to an extent, they want them to be sort of like a whore. Not saying like they paying for it, but saying like she's freaky, how kinky can we get, what cool, new, interesting experiments can we try, this, and that. When you find that dainty little prize of your wife, you want her to be the Madonna. You want her to be the Virgin Mary. Your wife would never wear trashy lingerie. That's beneath her. Your wife would never, I don't know, use toys or do that thing with her mouth or whatever, because that's beneath the Madonna of your wife. That was for the whores that you had sex with before you got married.
So there you go.
I honestly didn't even know that there are like guys who still like thought that.
Yes,
Whoa.
that is what I
definitely
experienced.
think there are men that think that. But I think even more so it's because if she's capable of doing it with me, then she's
They
capable
think
of
she's
doing
done
it with someone
Anybody
else.
else. Yep. I can
Yeah,
believe
but
that.
ironically,
The thought of that probably ruins.
but did
the
y'all
mood
sit
and
around like, oh, he's hitting all my spots. Oh, I mean, he hit somebody else's spot before me. Like that thought just
Never.
I didn't care. I even have made a comment to my husband that the girl before me must be mapped similar to how I'm mapped. Because he right out the gate was pushing all the right buttons, So, I mean, I'm not hating on her. Thank you, girl. She put the legwork in, Like, it's just weird to me how, like, men are conditioned and women are conditioned.
But so you're saying the thought did cross your mind that his previous experiences taught him.
Right. They did, but not in a negative way. Not in a,
It doesn't bother you.
No,
It
I wasn't
actually
bothered.
is
In
like-
fact, I was like, yes. Like,
See,
thank God for her.
experiences.
Because she put the legwork in. I'm sure when she got him, he didn't know how to do that stuff. Because let's be honest, porn doesn't teach you anything. That stuff is not real. That's not really how it works. I don't know any woman that enjoys that kind of sex. Like, stop feeling like, well, I done watched 3,300 hours of porn, so I'm an expert. Like, it's no.
Porn is traumatizing if you haven't had
Oh
any
my
experiences
God.
of your own.
It's traumatizing if you haven't. They try some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So it's like you gotta get that experience with someone, and with someone who's willing to speak up and say, I don't like that. Or I like it when, but I don't like it when. And not fake her orgasms. Because that's another thing. Ladies, you're messing over yourself and you're messing over the next chick. Like, do all of us a solid and tell him if he's not pushing the buttons. Because he out here thinking he's a sex god.
Right. But then I feel like now we're entering an entirely different conversation.
We are.
Yeah.
People not being able to be honest with each other about what they like in the bedroom.
Which
Yeah.
I can bring it all the way back around. If neither one of us have any experience, how do we know we're sexually
like,
compatible
right.
to say, I don't like this or I do like this?
Right.
You have no frame of comparison.
Right.
And to me, sexual compatibility is equally as important as compatibility in every other aspect of your marriage. I don't understand why we wouldn't want to figure that out the same way we figure out if we're financially compatible, if we're compatible as far as child rearing, if we're compatible as far as career goals and hobbies and food. I mean,
so let me say this, because I think this is no different from anything else people tell you about that you have to experience for yourself to know it's true. So for instance, Tiff, were there conversations beforehand from people who were saying, maybe you should rethink this? Like, did you have any friends or...
I think everybody was like, don't get married so early. Y'all need to have life experiences. Don't, get out, go do something, go away for college. Don't get married right now. And well, being young and love and so excited, it's like, oh, we're fine. We're going to do this together. And of course, we had the 5-year plan. We're not going to have kids for 5 years. We're not,
Right.
We had this plan. But honestly, like Bree just hit on a whole bunch of stuff. Being 18, you're not thinking about how you're going to be financially set. Right. You're not thinking how... just everything, just from financials to careers. What career path are you taking? All of those things really affect your marriage. And that's why I was like, now I would say not even just saving yourself for marriage, but think about how old you are when you get married. Being 18 and getting married is really not what it should be, because you haven't truly lived life like everybody suggested and told us and advised us to wait. You don't understand what it means to wait. until after the fact.
Right.
You know, now we're divorced and now we can sit and have a conversation of realizing we were not financially compatible. Your career wanted to take you outside the state where I wanted to stay with my family here. You know, like nothing was compatible, but you don't really understand those things to talk about those things unless you're grown.
Right.
You know, unless you've lived some things and you've experienced some things. So I got it all kind of ways of waiting until I was married, getting married early. Then we had kids early. You know, we thought we was gonna wait. We thought we were waiting, but surprise, 6 months later, I ended up pregnant. So everything just snowballed at one time. But I would definitely change a lot of things at this point. You know, realizing as you've grown, as you realize, even child raising, we were completely on opposite ends for that. So it made our marriage very challenging.
Right. So saying you should do something and actually doing it are two different things, because I think it's not until you have lived that experience that you realize I should have done this differently, or I would change this, or I would do this differently if I had to do it over again.
Hindsight is always 2020.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Once you get into it, and that's why, you know, sometimes you want to take young people and be like, look, I'm telling you from experience. I know.
Right.
I know.
Like, I'm not just trying to hate on you.
Exactly.
Or keep you from having fun, but trust me.
You need to do these things.
Right.
Grow up. Yes.
So you said like you would do things differently. Would you go back and just stay with him, but like not save yourself and then see where things went? Or would you just X the whole...
because of course not having an orgasm, knowing that we were not
I still can't
like
get over
sexually compatible, like it just...
That hurts my heart for you.
changes something. It changes a lot.
So did this also blind you to the other things you were not, where the other areas where you were not compatible? You guys were so focused on saving yourself for marriage and getting married to be able to have that sexual experience that you didn't explore other things, or did you just not explore those other areas because you were young when you got married? So you didn't know about like the financial and all that?
It was just being young and excited. That's what it really all boils down to. Really, the sexual piece. I mean, of course, you know, when you're dating, you're kissing and you're sort of touching. So the sexual piece really didn't plan into it. It was just, I think we both just thought we were going to play house. You know what I mean? It was just
so you
like,
realized you
let's be
wasn't
together.
playing.
Yeah, right. We wasn't really playing.
Like, no, this is really our house now. You really got to go to work.
Yes. And that made a big difference.
Yeah.
Like it really, it was a lot.
So then how is this different from people who are abstinent before getting married? So they've had sex before, but in this particular relationship, they choose to not have sex and then get married.
Can I chime in here?
Yes.
Okay. I also don't advocate that either. Because again, you have to be sexually compatible with somebody. And you can have all the conversations in the world. It's not going to replace having those experiences. I'm not saying that, you know, you meet a guy on Monday, by Wednesday, you need to give up the draws. But what I am saying is if this is somebody you see yourself being with long-term, possibly the rest of your life, you want to make sure you're not marrying unsatisfaction. And I don't just mean sexually. Like, you're going to hash out a whole lot of other things before you get married. You're going to see how he handles his bill paying. You know what I mean? You're going to find out, does he really have any debt, or was he lying to me? You're going to see how he treats his mom, to, you know how he is with his family or something like that. You're going to bring your nephew around him to see how he is with kids. You got to see what it's like in the bedroom too. Like, I would never buy a car without test driving, put it that way.
Yes, you advised me of that.
And mind you, at the time, so Tiff is older than me, so I was even younger, and I was like, "You sure?" Like,
ain't that something? When your younger friends are like, "Hey, are you sure you're doing this?"
But you were in love, and you were really like headstrong and committed, and so I just felt like, well, I'm gonna support you, and I'm gonna stand right by you, and I'm gonna root for you, and I hope it works out. And I would have been surprised if it did. Not that I was rooting for y'all to fail, but I just didn't see how First of all, I feel like you're not who you are at 18. At 18, you're not who you'll be at 28 or 38 or 48.
Yeah.
And you want to find somebody that you can grow with together. But at 18, you don't know where you're going. At least at, a certain age past that, you've had enough experiences to kind of be like self-assured.
Right.
So I may not know where we're going, but I know who I am.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I just feel like at 18, you didn't know that. And I just didn't see how y'all could find each other and keep the marriage long term. I just didn't see it happening, like till death do you part.
Right.
But what did I know? I was little, not little, but I was younger than her, so I was just thinking, well, hell, I don't know what I'm talking about. She could prove me wrong. They're gonna die together,
But my mama got married when she was 16 and my daddy was 18, and they're still married. They just made 48 years.
Love to talk to your
That's
parents
awesome.
about like the things they probably would have done differently, like in hindsight.
Right.
And I get that was a different time, and you think you was raised strong Catholic. I know they were raised real strong Catholic.
Right.
You know what I mean? But just in, just going back, like I could have had a better life if I had done this. And not saying them not be together, but just if I had maybe done these things first or found these things out so I could have worked on them beforehand. And not to say that your parents aren't compatible, but maybe someone else who's out there in that situation, you might have found somebody who was a better fit for you, but you were really committed.
Playing devil's advocate, what if they are? Because I think...
No, I think her parents really are.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Because I also don't want people listening to say, well, I was saving myself, it's over. Or we're being abstinent, it's over.
No.
Because I don't want us to ignore the fact that there are so many other areas that you have to make sure you're compatible in first. Not to just say, jump into bed real quick to see if you're compatible that way, but ignore all the other areas. So I guess I'm just saying, playing devil's advocate, people can get in relationships and they can work out just fine without having sex before marriage if they have truly explored the other areas that are important for that relationship to work.
So I would say this to the devil who's advocating over here. Those people are really, really lucky. And they're probably not the norm. Like if we were to take like a blind poll of people who saved themselves or were abstinent until marriage, and then maybe saw after that marriage ended for totally other reasons, but had other sexual experiences, would they do it differently? I bet a lot of them would be like, I'd probably do it differently because I didn't know what I was missing out on. Or I didn't know how unhappy I really was. Or I didn't know how not compatible we really were.
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody that's still together that has had that experience is obviously going to be like, yes, I'd do it all over again. But anybody that's not together is going to say they wouldn't because
right.
that's
And then
probably played into why.
But the marriage rate is 50% right now. So there's a lot of people who did that and it didn't make their marriage any more solid than the people who didn't. And they also would feel like, I probably do it differently. I don't see where it helps. But just to kind of piggyback off what you just said, CJ, you're like, it's important to find compatibility in all those other aspects. It absolutely is important to find compatibility in all those other aspects. But it's also important to find compatibility sexually.
Yeah, and I'm not saying
I
not.
know you're not saying, but I'm just saying, I don't understand why people will take that one out, but then do all the others.
Well, I'm just saying we cannot change people's morals or the things that they hold important to them or the things that they value. And if this is something they truly value, I don't want it to come across as us saying, don't do it at all, throw it out the window. I'm saying that they can still hold on to that and they can still value that. But it is important that if you want your relationship to work and to be solid, you better make damn sure everything else is good.
Oh, yes, I agree
not
with
just
that.
everything else being good, but also even if you guys aren't going to have sex prior to marriage, you have to have really honest sex
conversations.
Talks.
Yes.
Like really honest sex talks. And not just, well, are you into the idea of this or not? But also, what if I wanted to try that? Would you be willing to?
Right.
Because if your partner's just straight up like, nope, missionary, lights out after we shower once a week and that is it. And you're thinking, I want to swing from the chandeliers. It's probably not going to work long term. It just isn't. It's just not.
Right.
But me, I would rather test drive than just talk about the car and what it comes with. Let me tell you a story real quick. Years ago, there was this Mercedes that I just knew I wanted. Like, I knew, I was like, oh, I'm making big girl money now. I'm going to go get me a big girl wheel. And he wasn't my husband at the time, but my husband was like, have you ever even driven a Mercedes? And I was like, no, my mom was always into like Lexus, and I've never really driven a Mercedes. He was like, well, my mom's had a few Mercedes and they've been a little different. Why don't you go test drive that one? And I was like, it's a Mercedes. Like, it's going to be the best drive I've ever had. Like, I already test drive it. I was ready to go sign on the dotted line, honey. We go to Mercedes, tell the salesman I want to test drive. He throws me the keys. I bring the car back with the keys. I give it to him. And he was like, just call me if you have any questions. He saw on my face I did not like that car. Mm-hmm. It drove like a piece of doo-doo. And I was like, and this is a Mercedes? Like, what the hell? I'm not trashing Mercedes because I have since driven plenty of other Mercedes that have been way better. Mercedes, don't sue us. But he was right. Now, I had read everything there was to read about the car. I just knew I was going to love it. I love how it looked. I loved how it was on paper. But getting behind that wheel, it wasn't up to snuff. And that's how I ended up getting my first Beamer, because it was up to snuff. Ha ha! See, but that's my point. There's some things you just can't know until you do it, you know? Yeah. And then I couldn't go to Mercedes and be like, well, I need you to change all these things. They'd have been like, maybe you can go to your partner and say that. Maybe he or she's willing to do it. Maybe they're not. You got to live with, am I still okay if they're not? And can you? Some people can, some people can't. I probably couldn't. I'm not that girl.
And I think, too, it depends on how high on your priority list you place sexual compatibility. Some people make a relationship work without that aspect or with that lacking. Some people do. Some people, it's number one on the list. If we're not sexually compatible, nothing else matters.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry.
I think that matters, too.
What were you gonna say?
I'm in like so many like mom groups and everything on Facebook and everything. And a lot of them, say things like they don't really have sex, but like once every few months or once every, and it's just not important to them. Like they're like, our relationship is just fine like that.
So I'll say this. Oh, go. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, but that's it.
I was just gonna say, in your marriage, you're gonna go through phases. Sexually, there'll be the rabbit phase where you can't keep your hands off each other. There'll be the phase where it's like, oh yeah, I remember we did have sex before. What I would need is I would need to know that when we're going through that ghost phase and we damn near forgot what sex was, that when we do have sex again, it's still good.
Okay, I gotcha. Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Like,
sense.
I'm not trying to say that like sex needs to be this number one priority, and if he's not serving it up on a platter 7 nights a week, then he's trash. That's not what I'm saying. To me, the compatibility,
get together and needs to be right.
And the sparks still need to be able to fly. If you're not satisfied in your sex life, not because of the frequency, just because of the sex, and your partner's not willing to make any changes to help you along that way. Like, I think I read somewhere about some chick that was like, I saved myself. This was in like Essence magazine. She saved herself, got married, sex was poo. She suggested toys. He was like, no, that's nasty. I would never. Those are devil tools. And so she's like, I'm literally to where like I have to sneak to have an orgasm when I think he won't catch me masturbating. Or I just don't have orgasms when we have sex. She's like, I'm laying there like a fish. I felt so bad for her, though. You know what I mean? Because it's like she wanted that connection. She wanted those orgasms. She wanted the sparks to fly. And with her husband, he was not doing it for her and he was not willing to budge. But she married him. So what does she do? And so to avoid putting yourself in that situation, my advice would always be, I don't think you should do this. Are you sure you should do this? And if you're still like, no, it's important to me, it's important to God, do you? That's what you want to do. That's what you believe. I'll still stand next to you and I'll buy you a gift and throw the rice. Well, I don't know. Do people still throw? People don't throw the rice anymore. I don't even think because of the birds. I don't think you can throw rice. And the little birds eat it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Some people like throw bird seed now.
Oh, that's what I want all over my dress. Bird seed. Anywho.
So Tiff, I have another question. Society is changing. I think we see it all the time in terms of sexuality and what's okay to display. It used to be you couldn't show certain things on TV. You couldn't say certain words without them being bleeped out. And that's not the case anymore. If there are people who still feel like they want to wait, do you have any advice for how they navigate, I guess, like sex all over the place versus their desire to not
We
partake?
don't live in Sodom and Gomorrah. Like, don't do us like that. Like, it's.
I mean, I look at it like this. If you choose to wait, that's great. I'm not gonna stop you. I wouldn't judge or think anything bad. You want to wait, that's wonderful. But I'm with you. Every other part of that relationship needs to work. It needs to be comparable, because at the end of the day, once you really fall in love with that man, the sex might be great, it might not, but everything else sort of overpowers it sometimes. You know what I mean?
Right.
So if you're choosing to wait. Make sure you're dating. Make sure that relationship is first and foremost on everything. Because even when you get married and you have kids and stuff, you have to have that strong foundation between the two of y'all.
Right.
That can't crack.
Right.
So if you're working on every other aspect of that relationship and you're going to wait on the sex, that's fine. Because I think what happens now is sex is so out there and it's all in your face. And it's like, do you do this? Do you do this? When you're in a relationship, it's like they're expecting you to, are you waiting just because it's so, how am I trying to say this? Because I guess it's like the expectation or, are you waiting to save yourself because it's something special that y'all want to share together on that first night of marriage? Or maybe I should say, if you're choosing to wait, know why.
Yes. Yes.
Why are you waiting?
I agree. If you're waiting for you because it's something you pride in yourself or it's important to you for y'all to have that moment, that's beautiful. But if you waiting because a religion or a society or a TV ad or anything told you you're supposed to,
right?
I don't think you should do that.
Exactly. Don't have any other influences. Know why. If it's something for you because you want to wait. Like, I wanted to wait because, like I said, I didn't want to be the baby mama.
Right.
I didn't want to have all of these different sexual partners. I didn't think like that when I was younger. That wasn't what I wanted for myself. I really wanted that one partner for the rest of my life.
Right.
That's how I felt. But things changed, obviously.
Right.
But know why. If you're waiting, know why and be comfortable with your why.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Know that that's why you're waiting and you're good with it.
Also, if you're waiting and you meet someone that you really do like and they're putting pressure on you, I don't think that's enough of a reason. I think if you decide to not wait and to give in before marriage for someone, that should be totally because you decided, because you had the urge and you was like, you know what, I'm ready. That's it. If it's because they're like, I like you, Elle, but, I can't just wait around forever, then you probably should just go on ahead and tell him, find somebody else. Because I'm comfortable waiting forever.
And don't be pressured into doing anything.
Yeah, never be pressured into it.
Right. So it sounds like, I think in kind of wrapping this portion of the topic up, if you're waiting, you need to know why. You need to be strong in that why. And you need to make sure everything else about the relationship is solid. But we're saying there's absolutely nothing wrong if you don't wait and you want to figure out if this works for you before getting into a marriage.
Right. I also want to say it's totally okay if you had decided to wait and then you decide not to. And it's totally okay if you've had sex before and then you decide you don't want to do that anymore until. Like, it's your body, it's your decision.
Okay, either way, it has to be your decision.
Yes.
Right.
You have to
Absolutely.
be comfortable with that decision.
Yes.
Okay, so we talked about having sex before marriage. What about living together before marriage? So now you're not just having sex with this person and then maybe going back to your house, but y'all are in this.
Or you could not be having sex with this person and y'all are living together.
Right.
That's a whole different, difficult existence, if you ask me.
But either way, y'all are living together. You're
Right.
sharing the same home, the same bedroom, the same.
Let me ask y'all this. Did y'all ever feel like the only reason why, like, for religion, that you weren't supposed to live with the person before marriage was because you weren't supposed to have sex with the person before marriage? Like, what if you were going to retain your virginity, both of y'all, but y'all were going to live together? Do you think that would have been okay?
I think so. I always got the impression that living together
Implied
implied
a
Yeah.
sexual
sleeping
relationship.
That's
together.
true. That's
Which is
true.
funny because out of all the people that I know that did or didn't live together, they all had sex before marriage except for you, Tiff. So that doesn't mean anything, whether you live together or not. Y'all could live on the other side of the country and still be having sex when y'all see each other. So it's just weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. These constructs that society puts on, like, young people, couples, women, to prevent unacceptable quote unquote behavior, like curfews and things like that. Let's be honest, you can have sex in the daytime just as easy as you can at night. You know what I mean? You can have sex and then go home to your house, and he go home to y'all can still both be living with y'all parents and still have sex. Like, it doesn't
Sex
even
in a car in the driveway.
right. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's plenty of children born from back seats.
Right.
So
Right.
it's kind of like, why do we feel like things have to go in a certain order? If it doesn't strengthen a relationship or lay the foundation for a better marriage, it's kind of pointless. And for me personally, like test driving the car, I had to test drive living with you. Because it's totally different when I'm just visiting and then I go home. Even if I'm spending the night every so often and I go home. It's different when I know I don't have a me home. This is it. I gotta see you in the morning, in the noon, and in the night, whether I like you or not. I gotta see that you refuse to pick up your socks. You know what I mean? I gotta see that you poo with the door open or whatever. I'm not speaking about because we do not have that kind of house. We do not poop with the door open in my house. But I gotta see those things and see if I'm okay with that. And I feel like you can't know these things till you live with somebody. Even if you've traveled with them but not lived together, I still feel like you're getting their best behavior, you know?
Yeah. I'm an advocate of living together before marriage. I think it was very important in my marriage, and I think it's important to just know their habits and know how they live and see how you guys get along being together all the time, you know, because like you said, you can visit and, you know, date and everything, but it's not like morning, noon, night, you know, all the time. So, I know with me, you know, like my husband, I always joke that he's, you know, kind of a little bit trife as far as like, you know, leaving stuff around and everything. But, I think that if we were dating and then we just got married before living together, that might have been like a really big issue in our marriage where we possibly might have had to have counseling or something, you know, if that was something that we would have just
Jumped
not
into
done.
after.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But it worked out because we lived together for a while before. We learned to work that out.
Right. You know what you were getting.
Right.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Where is society on that these days? And I have to ask that because I knew how I grew up. I grew up in the Catholic household. Certain rules, you know, you don't have sex before you married, you don't live together before you married. But I find as society is changing and stuff, what are the quote unquote expectations today? Because I don't see, and I'm thinking it's because of my age, I don't see the problem or the question or the concern about saving yourself anymore, living together anymore. It seems like that's the norm of what I see in society. I don't see where things how I grew up are like they are today.
I can only speak on how it was like when we all started dating, like our misters, and that was well over a decade ago. And for us, it was still something, you know, like I got some raised eyebrows about me and my husband living together before we were married.
But by who?
By older people.
See?
Yeah. No, it was never my peers. But I mean, could you honestly say your peers were the ones that put pressure on you to save yourself?
But what I'm saying is now your peers didn't, right? And your peers are becoming the older generation.
Right.
So as society is evolving, are all of these concerns still truly a concern?
I think they are a concern depending on your household, because my peers that I grew up with are now, you know, we're the parents and stuff.
Exactly. And what are you teaching your children?
I'm teaching my children to just be happy. Mama just wants y'all to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
If you happy having all the sex that God can allow before you say, will you marry me, then you have it. If you happy living in a house with this person for 10 years before you put a ring on it, you be happy. But I do think that there are people who are still very much raised in the church, whether it's the Catholic Church, the Baptist Church, the Protestant, the Mormon, whatever. They are taught to save yourself. This new thing about these like purity balls, that we didn't have that when we were coming up.
I'm sorry, what is that?
Yeah, so these like things, and I don't mean to like totally introduce a whole nother topic, but where like the daddies take the daughters to like a dance and they give them like a ring and they pledge themselves to Christ and their father until they're married, and then they like they have like a ball, like they dance, they dress up, big white dress. It to me is creepy. It's a little too you're marrying your dad for me. But that whole like idea of like little girls, your body belongs to your father until it belongs to your husband, that's not going away completely. Not at all, not by a long shot. To me, it's just kind of morphed.
Okay, I'm just.
So I think the idea of people waiting until they're married still exists. And I even think with some of the younger generations, it's becoming more prevalent. I even think there was a study that's saying that, or that's showing that younger generations are actually not having as much sex, but it's also because dating has changed and people are struggling with like that personal communication or whatever.
Yeah, because everything's on your phone and email and texting. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So I do think that's still prevalent. I do know people my age who have waited or abstained from sex until they got married. But the living together thing, I don't think is as big of an issue now. I think that has become
sort of the norm.
Right.
Days,
normal
right?
almost to move in with your partner and live together, even if it's not serious, even if you don't know that you want to spend the rest of your lives together. We'll just live together and be in a relationship.
Yeah, sometimes it's a financial thing.
I was just about to say.
It's like we are together all the time and we both paying for these apartments.
Rent,
so why don't
like,
we
let's
just
consolidate? And then if we break up, I'll move in the guest room and we'll be roommates because these rent prices are too high out here and this housing market is ridiculous. Like I think that honestly might have more to do with it than like the societal implications of us fornicating. You know what I mean? I think it probably is more of a financial decision now. It's hard out here.
Right. But I will say in terms of a relationship, I refused to even consider the idea of moving in together until there was at least an engagement. If we were not engaged and planning a wedding or on that path, then living together was not an option for me. Because I never wanted to feel, for me, not even for him, that I was comfortable just being the girlfriend and we were just going to do this for however long as girlfriend and boyfriend. I needed to feel like the relationship was moving to something more permanent if we're going to be sharing a home together.
So let me ask you this.
I like that thought.
Not trying to say that you're like manipulative in this manner, but do you feel like for some people that's almost like the dangling of the carrot? Like, if you want to have me full time, you got to put a ring on it first?
Possibly. But I also don't know how much that works now because people do hang out all the time or they do share a space on the weekend type thing. Some people, it's like you have your space and I have my space. I don't even use my space. I just have it to say that I'm not living with you type thing. Mm-hmm. So I think it's hard to use that as a carrot to dangle when you are still spending all of your time with your partner. It's just a technicality that you don't live together.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like that was y'all though, before y'all actually moved in? Do you feel like you spent like most of your time over there? Like your husband has spoken on the podcast previously about the little blue bag.
Right. No, we didn't. No, we didn't. We still spent a large amount of time at our own separate places. Mm-hmm. And a really big thing about that too was he worked night shifts before we got married. So I couldn't spend the night at his place. He was working. So we definitely spent a lot of time in our own homes before getting engaged.
So were you at all concerned that y'all wouldn't be compatible living partners? Or did you feel like at least we working this shit out before we get married?
It honestly,
because you said engaged, you didn't say married.
Right. It honestly never crossed my mind that we would not be compatible living together. And we did not have any big issues when we did move in. So I guess I can't say from my experience that moving in together was a mind-blowing experience for us. The biggest fight we had when we moved in together was about laundry. So it just worked for us. But I can see how that's a really big adjustment when you have not lived together and now you're learning different things about your partner that you don't see when you're not there and having to adjust to that.
Right. Because like with us, you know, with living, we were together all the time before we lived together. But, you know, I didn't have all his stuff, you know, at my house. Like, you know, it would just be stuff that he'd bring to spend the night because I had an apartment. Well, when we first met, I was living with my parents. He was living with his parents. But then I ended up getting an apartment. So he would just be by my apartment all the time and he'd help me with the bills and things like that. But, you know, without all his stuff, it's different when all the stuff comes in to play, you know, and you're actually, you know, putting everything together and just being together all that time. So, yeah.
And I'll say for me, well, the reason we did move in was financial because we were about 6 months out from the wedding and the lease on my apartment was ending. And I would either have to renew for another year or do a month to month, which would have been more money.
Yeah.
And so for us, it was, we're almost to the wedding. Let's use that money to put towards the wedding and just go ahead on, consolidate everything. And so that was it. Had it not been for the finances, we would not have moved in beforehand. I did get pushback from my mom and my aunt. I actually still hear about that to this day. But yeah, so for us, it was financial. But I will say for me, the biggest thing it taught me was that if something goes wrong, if there's a fight, an argument, you have to work it out. There was no, I'm leaving and going to my place. We'll talk about this a few days later. It was, you have to confront it head on. It is in your face. It's not going anywhere. You have to deal with it. So that was a big lesson for me before the wedding.
CJ, can I ask you a question? So you mentioned that like you got pushback from like your parents and the older figures in your family. What was their biggest gripe about y'all living together? I mean, you were already engaged. Y'all were adults, fully of majority age. You know, y'all had careers, finished college and everything. I mean, I don't know if they were speculating about the state of your virginity or not, but like, what was the issue?
I think it was for them, the perception amongst their peers that basically you raised this daughter who's comfortable,
who's a big fat whore, who just moved in with this guy, and they're shacking up. Is that it?
Because I even remember there being comments about, I guess, some of the friends questioning where they should send the wedding gifts. That's what where should we send the wedding gifts?
But you know what's weird about that is the answer would be to the marital home, which would have been your husband's home, regardless of whether or not you were living there.
Right. But I guess
that's just etiquette, wedding etiquette. You send the wedding gifts to the marital home.
Because he's the head of the household?
No. It's just because,
you not to throw that at you.
No, because they were going to move into his house. If they were going to move into her house, then you send it to her house. You send it to the marital home. And if there is no established marital home yet, then you send it to the bride's family home. That's just a little etiquette for y'all out there, y'all.
But I guess they took the questioning as, is this where they are living right now? If we send it here, will they get it? Type
Even
of thing.
if you weren't living there, you would have still gotten it. Like, it's like the thing you don't set foot, like he carries you over the threshold the wedding night. That's the first time you ever go in that house.
I understand that, but for the older generation,
it's just so
like,
weird
you
to
know,
me.
Yeah, because like for us, my husband's parents were totally against us living together. But in a sense, they pushed us to live together because they, were like, look, son, you live here or you live there. You don't live in two places at once. This is your house or is that your house? Like, which one? And so he's like, oh, there. Okay, I'm moving. I'm already helping with the bills. I might as well,
Bye.
So it was kind of like, and they probably were quite angry about that. But, it's kind of weird that thought process, and then that they actually pushed us to live together.
So my mom, she saved herself for marriage, got married super young, had a kid super young. Like my mom got married at like 17. She wasn't the kind of person who was open about sexuality with me. I think she would have preferred if I waited, but she wasn't like pushing it. She just was like, just don't come home with no babies. Trust me, it makes things a lot more difficult. My husband, when he was my boyfriend, he just kind of stopped going home at one point, and he was just always at my apartment. And she called me one day. She was like, I know he's over there, so he can pay half the rent. So I was like, well, Mama said you got to pay half the rent. And he was like, all right. So he wrote a check for half the rent. And then, after that, we decided to buy a house together. We bought a house before we were engaged. And let me tell you, we were locked in together on that mortgage a lot harder than we would have ever been on that engagement. It's hard to get out of a mortgage, child. But I mean, at that point, we knew, the engagement and the wedding was just formalities that we hadn't taken that step yet, but we knew. So it was just weird to me that I didn't do what she did, and she was totally fine with that. I think she just was like, you're happy, you're an adult, you're on your own. She really didn't give a damn if people asked.
I'll boil it down to what I was going to say. We're all individuals. We're all adults. You need to make your own decisions and be comfortable in your decisions. Mm-hmm. Be comfortable and know the reasons why you have the decisions that you have. Mm-hmm. If you want to wait, know why you want to wait, and be strong and confident in knowing in yourself, you're happy. Mm-hmm. If you want to live together before marriage, by all means, if that's what you want to make that decision and do, you be comfortable and confident in yourself. Mm-hmm. That's a big thing. So once you learn yourself, I think that all of those other decisions come in time. You make your decisions. And the next biggest thing is ask questions. Be open to listen to people, not necessarily saying you have to take in all the advice, but listen and be knowledgeable about what happens and what goes on in relationships. So you know how to make more of an educated decision.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think you also, you got to consider your sources, though, with some of this stuff. Because certain people are going to have a bias one way or the other. If you would have just sat down and talked to your parents about it beforehand, they would have been trying to push you not to live with them, because that's what they wanted. Whereas, someone else would have been like, girl, you better go ahead and move in with that man, save that extra $1,000 a month or whatever. I don't know what your rent was. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So try to find someone who is as unbiased on the subject, but has your best interest at heart as you possibly can.
But
I think that's good.
I think those really polar opposite opinions are important too, because it helps you to make a really solid decision, knowing that
to hear both sides.
Right, knowing that you have considered all of the dynamics in the situation. So I think those are important.
That's good. So will we do it over? The cohabitation, the saving yourselves, would we change it? Will we go back and change it, or will we do it the same?
I would do everything the same.
Yeah. So my biggest thing in life is to never have regrets, because I think that everything that has happened to me has made me who I am. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't change a thing. I
may have changed some of my sexual partners, but I still wouldn't have saved myself from marriage. I'm just being honest. There's a couple of them that are notches on my belt I wish I could take off. And I stick by our decision to live together. I think it showed us the true versions of who we were, and we knew what we were getting. And I liked what I saw. What about you, Tiff?
If I wouldn't have married him, I wouldn't have my kids. I wouldn't have, like you said, it made me the person that I am today. Mm-hmm. It is now, looking back, I know questions to ask. Now I feel like I can advise my children better by my experiences and what I've gone through. So would I change it? It's like I'm on the edge. Like, yeah, I could have learned some different things. I could have done some things different, but then I wouldn't have the things that I have today, and I wouldn't know now. So I don't know. I can't say that I would change a lot.
All right, guys. So what do we do?
Chauncey, cut out where she can't talk. Just cut that part out.
Do we want to move on to the listener question?
Yeah.
All right. So this listener question comes from Jacqueline in Baton Rouge.
Hi, Jacqueline.
Hi,
Thanks for
Jacqueline.
listening. Did I say
Okay.
thanks for listening? Thanks for listening. What's wrong with me?
My best friend just confessed that he has a crush on me, but he and I are both in relationships. What should I do?
I would really like to know, Jacqueline, do you also have feelings for your best friend?
That would be my very
First question. Right. Because if you don't have feelings for him back, then it's really just a conversation of, I acknowledge that you told me you feel this way and I'm flattered, but I love you as my friend and I'm happy in this relationship that I'm in and I don't want to mess up either.
Mm-hmm.
Or, wow, I feel the same way. Let's break up with these losers and get together.
I kind of feel like if she feels the same way, that's like a really sweet love story. Like your bestie, and then y'all are actually secretly in love. I don't know.
I'm making a face right now because I've had opposite sex besties and I could have never fallen in love with them.
I don't know. I guess I watched too many romance movies.
Maybe. I don't know. To me, it felt like they were more like family than like a romantic. I don't know.
But that might not be her case.
Right,
Well, it's clearly not his case.
Yeah,
I mean,
she
that may
she
not
might
be
feel the same way.
the case. But I will say this. My follow-up question would be, how serious are the relationships you're currently in?
And that's very true.
Because if your best friend is saying that he has feelings for you, but you're
engaged,
married,
engaged,
or on your way to engagement, or whatever the case may be, it may be that it's not worth jeopardizing what you have currently
just to explore
your feelings for your friend.
Yeah, a bird in the hand. Literally, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. Keep that bird that's in your hand.
Right. I think
Ella's like, I can't believe she just said that.
Oh, goodness.
I think the first thing each of you needs to do is to assess your current relationships and where you see that going. If it's going nowhere, then you don't lose out by exploring something else.
Yeah, that's very true.
If it is going somewhere
and it's serious, then
right.
Yeah.
I think you also have to make peace with the fact that not maintaining the current status quo could result in you losing the relationship you have and your best friend.
Yes.
Yeah.
You might end up not having either of those things at the end of this. Because, I mean, it's easy to think, oh, well, she's either going to be with the best friend or the boyfriend or the girlfriend. I don't know who she's dating now. But the truth is you may have not no one like you all alone the rest of your life, just go buy 25 cats or something. Right. But I'm just saying, like, you may not have either one. And you have to be okay with that. Like, you have to feel like it's worth it to risk that to see before you step out.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, too. We're assuming the best friend is someone that would make a good partner for her.
Correct. In
the long term. She may know, I have feelings for this person, but this won't really go anywhere down the line.
Right.
And in that case, you don't touch it. You stick with your current relationship. Tell the best friend that's really sweet, but we need to keep this platonic and stay in our respective relationships.
Right.
Yeah, but if you do that, do you tell your significant other? Like, should she tell?
So I would
because keeping that a secret.
I would say no. I'm gonna tell you why I would say don't tell. If you decide to not pursue things with your friends, stay with the relationship that you're in, I would say not to tell your partner, because all that's going to accomplish is to make your partner not trust your friend, which is going to make you maintaining a relationship with your friend more difficult while being in this relationship with your partner. Did that make sense?
I think maintaining the relationship is difficult anyway, because now you have to toe the line that you may not have done otherwise about what's friendly and what's
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's
But
really
now
awkward now,
add on
yeah.
top of that now your partner don't trust them.
Right.
So whereas it's like, yeah, I'm going to happy hour with Joe, and he would have been like, all right, fine, tell him I said what's up. Now he's like, oh, I'm coming. Are you really going to happy hour with Joe? Y'all gonna get a motel room? You know, like, I mean,
Yeah.
and even if he doesn't think that you would actually cheat, just that's in the back of his mind. Like, is Joe trying to push up on my lady every time y'all hang out now, or did he actually take the hint and fall back? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
It muddies it more than it needs to be.
yeah, but I'm also a firm believer in those secrets. And
I was
to me,
gonna
that's a
say-
big secret. That's a big thing.
I mean, you can
Honesty
tell
is
him later.
huge. It'll be
worse than
right.
yeah. Waiting would be worse.
I'm still sticking to it. Because, okay, I'm only sticking to it if you are going to maintain a level of respect for the relationship you're in while you're hanging out with your friend. Put it that way. If you think that you might end up engaging in questionable behavior with your friend when y'all are out together, then you should tell your partner. Because maybe you do need to kind of fall back from your best friend. But if you know that like you and Joe can hang out, and whether Joe is feeling you or not, you're not going to cross any lines. I don't see what the good is of giving your spouse, boyfriend, whatever, something to worry about. That's not a thing to worry about. Like, it's not going anywhere.
I see what you're saying, but if she values her relationship and wants this to turn into something long term, I think it will come back to bite her if she's not
I
honest.
just
Yeah.
don't
upfront.
see how.
Like you were smiling in his face, going everywhere with him, and he told you that, and
Right.
that comes up later. That could be a huge.
And be like,
issue.
yeah. And at no point did I ever have a doubt in my mind that I didn't want to be with him and I wanted to be with you. Now get off my back. Like, why can't you
Yup,
just-
and then you got this big blowout fight. You guys don't speak for the next week.
That is not effective arguing techniques, Miss DJ.
It's not, but once this blows up,
I don't. On this part, Jackie, the misses are in disagreement. So you gotta either pick a side, pick L, pick CJ, or pick Bree. But I think we all agree. A, do you also have feelings for your friend? And B, are you comfortable being stuck out if this doesn't pan out? If
Right.
you decide to make a move.
right?
Yep.
So I think that's it, Jackie. Like, I'm calling her Jackie. Her name Jacqueline. Girl, I gave you a nickname.
We hope this works out for you. Feel free to write in and let us know what happened.
Yeah, please let us know.
How you
I'm
handled
really
this,
interested.
right?
Or at least answer the question, like, do you also have feelings for your friend? I just want to know. Or like, what if she did have feelings like long ago, but, didn't act on them because that's the friend, and then she got in this relationship, and now she really likes the person she's with now, and then he comes like this, and it's like,
That
it's too
really
little, too
sounds like a
late.
movie.
Right? Right.
That would be... Okay, I feel like it's probably a movie that's
Why
already
did you tell
happened,
me
but
this
wouldn't
in
that be
high
a good
school?
movie?
If you had just said something in college.
You know what's so funny? Have y'all seen that meme that's like, what good is it for you to tell me you had a crush on me like 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Like, I can't retroactively act on that. Like, it's true. So, I mean, I don't know. I just would like to know. We're nosy. Sorry, Jacqueline, we're nosy. But good luck.
Yes. Hope
Yeah,
it works
good
out
luck.
for you.
All right, y'all ready for my quote?
Yes.
Of the
Let's hear
day?
it.
So, this one goes along with what we talked about. It's another reason that somebody might be saving themselves. You ready?
Okay.
All right. Y'all should know this one, though. Yeah, save the narrative. You saving it for marriage. Let's keep it real, Ma. You saving it for carrots. You want to see how far I'm going to go, how much I'm going to spend, but you already know. Zip zero, stingy with De Niro. Might buy you Chris, but that about it. Might light your wrist, but that about it. F it. I just, I'm a censor. I might wife you and buy you nice whips. I'm going to skip the rest of the part that he describes what you got to do to get the carrots and the whips. But just
Jay-Z.
know that, yes, this Jay-Z. And it's I Just Want to Love You. If y'all want to go out and listen to that. It's like a song of our youth, I feel like. back in the day.
Don't date us now.
Why? I'm hip. I know who the baby is. I'm hip. I know what I'm doing.
Not to be confused with Lil Baby.
Right, or baby.
Right.
Why is that the thing?
Who knows?
Like that's
No,
such a
I
weird...
feel like Lil is the thing. Everybody's Lil.
But Lil's been like because we
like
had,
all of the rappers besides the baby is Lil something.
But like we had like Lil Wayne, Lil Zane. We had a lot of Lils.
And then they outgrow the
way
Lil
more Lils
and
now.
wanna be
Lil Bow Wow. We had a lot of Lils.
It's way more now.
I just to me like as a man, like why do you want to be called baby? I don't know.
I don't know.
That's a good question.
I don't know why.
If you
Lil
ever
baby,
meet
baby.
one of them, you should ask.
That's probably not the question I would ask because that can be a little confrontational.
It may be.
Yeah. I don't know what I would ask, but that's probably not the question. Honestly, because what you gonna do if I make a really good argument as to why that shouldn't be your name? You gonna change it?
Not at all.
Exactly.
It's making you money, so why
right? Why
change
would
it?
you change it?
If it ain't
Also,
broke,
it's
don't fix
confusing.
it.
Like, yeah, who's that by? That's the baby, Lil Baby. No, the baby. Like that's too much, you know.
Yeah.
Like that's why if I hit it big, I can't be Brianna because of Rihanna. Like I'd have to go by something else. Like that's confusing.
I suppose.
You trying to say I'm never gonna be on Rihanna status?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying for you to feel like you can't use your name because it's too close to another celebrity's name.
Wait,
We just talked about two celebrities that have the exact same name, just a different
which I think
article
is silly.
in front.
It's really silly. First of all, they have an article. We don't have an article. It would be Rihanna. Second of all, Brianna is my first name. Rihanna is not her first name.
Exactly.
But at this
So
point, she
even more
can't change
reason why
hers.
Right, you
should
can
use
use it.
your real name.
I should go by Robin. I should fix her ass. I'm salty anyway. She didn't give us a new album. She was supposed to. So,
All right, guys. We would like to thank Tiff for joining
yes,
us.
Tiff,
Yeah,
thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. That was a lot of really good information.
Yes.
Yes.
Things I
Very-
never thought about, things I never knew.
Very insightful.
I hope we help somebody out there make an informed decision, one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
If you have comments on the subject or if you yourself have waited, we'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to reach out, you can email us at mrsandamike@gmail.com. You can also reach out to us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Mrs. and a Mike. This is CJ.
It's L.
And Bree. Bye.